They were still laughing when Michael Jackson pushed open the door to Green Room C. September 7th, 1995, 11:53 p.m. Radio City Music Hall in New York City. Michael had thought the venue was empty. He'd come here to be alone, to think, to stop the loop of Lisa Marie's voice playing in his head. You don't love me. You love the idea of being loved. 6 hours since that phone call. 6 hours since his marriage ended. 6 hours since he'd picked up a pen and written lyrics he'd been avoiding his entire life. The laughter stopped the moment he appeared in the doorway. 3 people sat around a table covered with manila folders and coffee cups. Robert Palmer, the rock critic who'd seen every legendary performance and been impressed by none of them. Deniece Williams, the R&B singer-turned-producer who protected real soul music like a sacred trust. Marcus Chun, the MTV executive who represented the new generation and had publicly called Michael yesterday's spectacle. They stared at him. Michael stared back. Marcus recovered first, his face flushing. We didn't know you were here. We thought the building was... How long have you been standing there? Robert asked carefully. Long enough, Michael thought. Long enough to hear them laughing about his submission for MTV's secret Raw Performance category. Long enough to hear Marcus say, Michael Jackson? The guy who makes robot moves and can't keep a marriage together with Elvis's daughter? What could he possibly have to say that's real? Long enough to hear all 3 of them agree that his career was basically over at 37. I heard enough, Michael said quietly. His eyes were red-rimmed. His hand clutched a piece of paper folded into a small square. He was wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. No costume, no fedora, no single glove. Just a man who'd been crying in his hotel room and had come to an empty venue to escape his own thoughts. Deniece stood up quickly. Michael, we were just discussing the preliminary submissions. We didn't mean any. Yes, you did. Michael's voice was steady, but something underneath it wasn't. You meant every word. And you're right. The 3 judges exchanged confused glances. You're right that I haven't had a real hit in 3 years, Michael continued. You're right that my marriage is falling apart. You're right that people think everything I do is calculated for attention. He stepped further into the room. The fluorescent lights hummed. Through the walls, a janitor's vacuum cleaner droned in a distant hallway. But you're wrong about one thing. Michael held up the folded paper. You think I don't have anything real to say? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Michael, you don't have to prove. Yes, I do, Michael interrupted. Because you were laughing. And I need to know if you're right to laugh. Robert Palmer removed his glasses, studied Michael's face. This wasn't the Michael Jackson he'd interviewed a dozen times. This was someone else. Someone exposed. What's on that paper? Robert asked. A song I wrote 6 hours ago. Michael said. I've never performed it. No one's heard it. What's it about? Deniece asked gently. Michael's hand was shaking. It's about what my wife said before she hung up on me tonight. She said, I'm in love with being heartbroken. That I write songs about longing because it's safer than actually letting someone love me. The room went very quiet. She's probably right, Michael said. But I wrote the song anyway. And I'm going to sing it for you. And then you can decide if I'm just a performer who doesn't feel anything real, or if maybe, for once in my life, I actually mean what I'm singing. He walked to the center of the small room. No stage. No microphones. No backing track. Just Michael Jackson standing under fluorescent lights, holding lyrics written in his own handwriting, about to reveal something he'd spent 37 years hiding. Marcus checked his watch out of habit, then stopped himself. Robert set down his pen. Deniece leaned forward slightly. Michael closed his eyes and began to hum. Not a Motown hum. Not a performance warm-up. Something fragile and uncertain. Then he started to sing. The first line came out quieter than they expected. You said I write about longing / like it's safer than being close. His voice cracked slightly on the word safer. Not a calculated crack, for emotional effect. A real break in his voice that revealed how raw he actually was. Robert Palmer shifted in his chair. This wasn't what he'd expected at all. Michael continued, his eyes still closed. You said I'm married to the music / more than I could ever be to you. As he sang, The room transformed. The skeptical energy evaporated. Something else replaced it. Something uncomfortable and intimate, like they were reading someone's diary, without permission. What none of them knew, what Michael was living through with every word, was the truth of the relationship they'd all dismissed as a publicity stunt. 3 months earlier, Lisa Marie had found Michael in his Neverland study at 2 a.m., writing in his journal. "What are you working on?" she'd asked. "Just lyrics." Michael had said, closing the journal quickly. She'd sat down next to him, tried to see what he'd written. "You're writing about being lonely, aren't you? About wishing someone would love you, while I'm sitting right here." "That's not." Michael had started. "Michael, I love you. I'm here. But you keep writing songs about yearning for something you already have." He hadn't known what to say to that, so he'd said nothing. 2 months earlier, in a Budapest hotel room after a show, Lisa Marie had tried to talk about moving in together permanently. Michael had changed the subject to the next tour stop. She finally lost her patience. "Do you even want this marriage? Or did you just want to prove you could have it?" 3 weeks earlier, there'd been one good moment. They were in a recording studio, late at night. Michael had played her a melody he'd been working on. "That's beautiful," she'd said. "What's it about?" And for once, Michael had been honest. "It's about being afraid, about wanting love, but not knowing how to accept it when it's real." Lisa Marie had tears in her eyes, then stopped being afraid. "I'm not going anywhere." But she did go somewhere. Tonight, she'd gone away for good. Now, standing in Green Room C, Michael sang the bridge. "I spent my whole life on stages / learning every move, every line / but when you held me in the darkness / I forgot how to be mine." His voice did something none of them had heard before. It broke, not in a technical way, in a human way. Denise's hand moved to cover her mouth. Robert Palmer stopped pretending to take notes. Marcus Chun had gone completely still. Through the walls, the janitor's vacuum cleaner shut off. The janitor appeared in the doorway, drawn by the sound. A security guard walked past, heard the singing, and stopped. Michael's body wasn't moving with choreography. He wasn't doing the moves that made him famous. His hands clutched the paper, then slowly crumpled it. His shoulders shook. He was crying while he sang, and he wasn't trying to hide it. This wasn't a performance. This was a confession. The final chorus came and Michael's voice soared, then shattered. "I was safer in a longing / safer in the song / than admitting that I love you / and I got it wrong." The last note hung in the air like smoke. Silence. Michael opened his eyes. His face was wet. He looked at the 3 judges, the 3 people who'd been laughing at him 10 minutes ago, and he was completely exposed. If you are enjoying this story, please subscribe to support the channel. No armor, no mystique, just a man who'd finally admitted something he'd been running from his entire life. Robert Palmer was the first to speak. His voice came out rough, like he had something caught in his throat. "I've been reviewing music for 30 years. He paused. "I've never heard anything like that." Denise Williams was crying. She didn't bother hiding it. She stood up, walked over to Michael, and did something he didn't expect. She hugged him. Michael stiffened. He wasn't used to unscripted physical affection. Slowly, uncertainly, he accepted the embrace. Marcus Chun was the last to speak. The cocky edge in his voice was gone. "I thought I had you figured out," he said quietly. "I thought you were just spectacle, performance." He shook his head. "I was wrong. We were all wrong." Michael's voice came out small. "My wife left me today. Ex-wife, I guess." He looked at the crumpled paper in his hand. She said, "I'm in love with being heartbroken, that I write songs about yearning, because it's safer than actually being in a relationship." His voice broke. "What if she's right?" Robert Palmer put his glasses back on. "Son, I don't know if she's right or wrong about your marriage." He leaned forward. "But what you just did, that wasn't about being in love with heartbreak. That was about finally admitting you're heartbroken. There's a difference." Denise squeezed Michael's shoulder. "You can't perform real emotion, Michael. You can only reveal it. Every other time we've seen you, you've been performing. Just now, you revealed." Marcus stood up. "The raw performance category? You just won it." He paused. But that's not even the point anymore. You need to record that song, Robert said. Exactly as you just sang it. No production. No backing track. No studio polish. Just truth. Michael looked uncertain. It's too personal. People will know it's about. Good. All three judges said simultaneously. Michael stood there, holding his crumpled lyrics, surrounded by three people who'd walked in as skeptics and walked out as witnesses. The janitor in the doorway wiped his eyes. The security guard nodded slowly and walked away. Thank you for proving me wrong, Robert said, extending his hand. Michael shook it. Thank you for laughing. Robert looked confused. What? If you hadn't been laughing, Michael said quietly, I wouldn't have needed to prove anything, and I wouldn't have sung that song. 6 weeks later, Michael recorded the song in one take. No second attempts, no overdubs, just him and the truth he'd finally admitted. It was released as a hidden track on his next album. No promotion, no video, no performance on award shows. It became the most played deep cut in his entire catalog. Fans called it the song where he finally stopped performing. In a 1997 Rolling Stone interview, Michael was asked about that night. I wrote it on the worst night of my life, he said. I performed it for three people who thought I was a joke. And for the first time in my career, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was trying to understand myself. Did you figure it out? The interviewer asked. Michael paused for a long time. I figured out that Lisa Marie was right. I was in love with the idea of love, with the longing, the pain, the drama. But here's what she didn't know. Singing that song for those three judges, that was the moment I stopped being in love with heartbreak. He smiled sadly. I still don't know if I know how to really love someone, but at least now I'm not pretending anymore. September 7th, 1995, 12:03 a.m. Michael Jackson walked out of Radio City Music Hall. Through the stage door, the janitor who'd heard him sing was still standing there. Mr. Jackson? That was beautiful. Thank you, Michael said. Was it about someone real? Michael paused, looked at the crumpled paper one more time, then folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. Yeah, he said. It was about me. Inside Green Room C, three judges sat in silence. Tomorrow, they'd file their reports. Tomorrow, they'd tell MTV executives about the Raw Performance category. Tomorrow, they'd go back to being critics and gatekeepers and skeptics. But tonight, they'd witness something rarer than talent. They'd witness truth. The judges walked in laughing. Minutes later, no one was laughing. They were too busy realizing they'd been wrong about everything they thought they knew about Michael Jackson. And somewhere in Tennessee, Lisa Marie Presley lay awake, unable to sleep, wondering if she'd made the right choice. The answer was complicated. She was right that Michael was in love with being heartbroken. But she didn't know that on September 7th, 1995, in an empty room with three strangers, he finally stopped running from that truth. And sometimes that's all love can ask of us. Not that we get it right, just that we finally stop pretending we have. If you like this story, please subscribe to support this channel.